You know that weird feeling? You go to the store for one specific thing, maybe, I don't know, a new whisk or something equally thrilling, and you leave empty-handed, but with this nagging sense that you should have bought something. That little, like, undercurrent of consumption anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating, isn't it, how that sense of unease can linger, even when, practically speaking, you didn't need anything else.
Exactly. It sort of suggests there's something deeper going on influencing our desires beyond just needing stuff.
Yeah. Some other mechanism at play?
Okay, let's unpack this, because that feeling and the forces behind it are really right at the heart of what we're exploring today.
Good place to start.
So to really dig into this, we're taking a deep dive into Emil Isaacson's book, Köttrobotar Utkast 2.
Right.
Now, broadly speaking, Isaacson puts forward a really compelling argument. He suggests that our modern, digitally saturated consumer society, with its constant stream of information and temptation, it risks turning us into what he calls Köttmaskiner.
Which translates to?
Meat robots. Basically, individuals driven by this almost automated urge to consume, not just physical goods, but information, entertainment, social media, the whole shebang.
Wow. The meat robot metaphor is quite striking. It really highlights that concern that we might be losing some of our agency, becoming almost like programmed to consume without really thinking critically.
It does, right? The book as a whole really makes you question the drivers behind our modern lifestyle.
It's that thought-provoking jolt, yeah?
Yeah.
Makes you reconsider your daily interactions with, well, everything.
And while the book touches on all sorts of things, our basic instincts, social media, advertising for this deep dive, we're focusing our attention mostly on Chapter 5.
Okay.
It has this wonderfully blunt title, Slit og sling digiveggen.
Which roughly means?
Something like throwaway mentality, or maybe wear it out and throw yourself against the wall. It's quite evocative. Basically, the throwaway culture.
Got it. And that chapter really gets into the mechanics, doesn't it? The things that keep this engine of consumption running.
Exactly. It looks beyond just our personal choices and examines the bigger picture, the economic and historical trends that have shaped how we relate to goods now.
So, our mission today.
Our mission today is to really understand the roots of this throwaway mentality, especially as Isaacson presents it in Chapter 5, and think about what it means for us, for our well-being.
Right. Think of this as getting the crucial insights from this part of the book.
Yeah, a shortcut to being well-informed on this without having to, wade through the whole thing right now. Okay, Chapter 5. It kicks off with that feeling we started with the unfulfilled shopping trip. And it immediately struck me, reading it, that how much you connect with that might really depend on, well, when you grew up, your generation.
That's a very astute observation.
Yeah.
Our early experiences with whether goods were easily available or not available at all profoundly shape our attitude towards consumption for life, really.
Totally. Isaacson starts by looking at dentista generation, the silent generation, those born before the 1950s. For them, scarcity wasn't some abstract idea. It was real life, shaped by wars, rationing.
Lived reality.
Exactly. He talks about this ingrained resourcefulness, the kokasuppa pan spick mentality, literally boil soup on a nail, meaning making something out of almost nothing.
Making the absolute most out of very little.
Right. He even mentions Ingvar Kamprad, IKEA's founder, as someone who, despite becoming incredibly wealthy, apparently kept that fundamental frugality.
Interesting example. So for that generation, this idea of feeling compelled to buy something just because.
It likely seemed completely bizarre, yeah. Foreign value was in durability, necessity.
Makes sense. A huge departure from today's constant drive for novelty.
Then you get the baby boomers, the post-war generation. Isaacson calls them the modliaternist generation, the generation of possibilities.
Right. Things started opening up.
Yeah, they experienced increasing prosperity, more access to a wider range of goods, foreign travel, new household appliances, that sort of thing.
So they occupy a kind of transitional space in this story of consumerism.
Exactly. They might get wanting a specific item, like in our shopping example, but maybe not that underlying urge to just fill a void with anything. They saw increased affluence, but maybe still had echoes of that older resourcefulness.
The purely impulsive consumption might not have been quite as ingrained yet.
And then we arrive at the generation born around, say, 1975 onwards. This is the group that has pretty much grown up entirely within a consumer society. No firsthand experience of real scarcity.
Immersed in it from birth, really. Constant availability, sophisticated marketing.
So for this generation, that feeling of leaving the store unfulfilled even if they didn't find that one specific thing, that probably resonates most strongly, right? Acquiring goods can almost feel like an implicit life goal sometimes.
Yeah, that need to consume to feel
Mm-hmm.
satisfied or maybe just normal is a pretty pervasive part of the experience for many.
Okay, so we've looked at how different generations might approach this. Now, Isaacson shifts focus a bit to the fundamental engine driving all this consumption.
The economy itself.
Right, he points out this basic truth, maybe an obvious one, but our economic system relies on continuous buying and selling. It's just how it works.
And therefore, it's in companies' inherent interest not just to make sales, but to make them as frequently as possible.
Which leads us, maybe uncomfortably, to this concept, planned obsolescence.
Ah, yes. Not just things wearing out naturally.
No, this isn't some, shadowy online conspiracy theory. It's the actual practice of designing products with a deliberately limited lifespan.
And Isaacson brings up a really striking historical example, doesn't he? The Phoebus cartel.
Yeah, all the way back in 1925. Can you believe it?
It's fascinating. You had major light bulb manufacturers, giants like Osram, GE, Philips, getting together and colluding.
To do what?
To artificially limit the lifespan of their light bulbs to 1,000 hours. Even though they knew they had the technology to make bulbs last way longer.
How much longer?
Around 2,500 hours, according to the research. They deliberately shortened the life.
Just to sell more bulbs. Wow. Talk about light bulb moment, huh? Pun intended.
Hey, right. But it shows this principle in action very early on. Major corporations actively making a product less durable to drive sales.
And it's not just some dusty history lesson, is it? We see echoes of this, or maybe direct descendants, all around us today.
Absolutely. Think about printer ink cartridges that seem to dry up or register as empty way too quickly.
Oh, yeah. Or smartphones, tablets, even electric toothbrushes where the battery is sealed in. Impossible for a normal person to replace.
Exactly. Repair becomes difficult or more expensive than just buying a new one. That pushes you towards replacement.
It's not always about things physically breaking down either, is it? Isaacson also talks about what he calls obsolescence through consumables.
Right. This is where the main product maybe lasts, but it needs a constant stream of specific accessories to function.
Like coffee capsule machines, the ones that only work with their own special pods.
Perfect example. Or razors that need those specific, often expensive replacement blade cartridges.
You buy the razor handle maybe once, but then you're locked into buying their cartridges forever.
It creates this dependency. The initial product might seem cheap, but the ongoing cost of consumables guarantees that revenue stream for the company.
The razor example itself is pretty wild when you look at the history.
It really illustrates the shift, yeah.
We went from straight razors, you could sharpen them, they'd last for decades.
Right, maximum longevity.
Then safety razors with replaceable blades. Apparently people even tried to sharpen those initially. Then came fully disposable ones, then double-sided blades to get a bit more use, and now...
Now we have these complex multi-blade cartridges. Use them a few times, toss the whole thing.
And the amount of plastic waste generated is just astronomical compared to before.
It's a perfect microcosm, as you said, of this broader shift towards disposability over durability. And the environmental impact is huge.
Which, yeah, naturally leads to the massive problem of disposal. Isaacson really hammers home this point about the extract, produce, consume, discard model.
This linear approach.
It's fundamentally unsustainable, isn't it? We take raw materials, make products, use them for a relatively short time, and then just throw them away.
Into landfills, incinerators, or worse, into our oceans. It's a finite planet, and these mountains of waste are creating a genuine crisis.
So the big question then, who's responsible? Isaacson talks about it like a kind of double game.
Played by whom?
Well, both corporations and consumers in a way. Companies are driving the production, pushing the new models, the shorter lifespans.
And we as consumers fuel it with our purchasing power. We keep buying this stuff.
Right. And he suggests corporations often aren't exactly upfront about the full long-term costs, environmental, societal, of this relentless consumption.
And perhaps many consumers don't actively seek out that information either. Convenience often wins.
Yeah, if we're being honest. There's a shared responsibility, maybe. But the power dynamics aren't equal, are they?
Definitely not. Companies have a strong vested interest in keeping things as they are. Full transparency might not align with maximizing sales.
And this is where that story about the Keep America Beautiful campaign comes in. It's such a relevant piece of history here.
Ah, yes, the litter bug campaign.
Exactly. Isaacson details how Coca-Cola and other companies producing lots of disposable packaging were facing criticism about litter back in the day.
So what did they do?
They cleverly shifted the narrative. They funded these campaigns focusing on individual responsibility. Don't be a litter bug. Put your trash in the bin.
It was a strategically brilliant move, really. It redirected the blame away from the producers of all this disposable stuff,
And put the focus squarely onto the individual consumer's behavior after purchase.
making it about littering, not about the production of single-use items in the first place.
Precisely. So the emphasis went on to us recycle, dispose of things properly, which, look, isn't unimportant.
Of course not.
But it really distracts from the bigger systemic issues, doesn't it? Like reducing production overall, or designing products to last, designing for repairability.
It takes the pressure off the manufacturers to fundamentally change their practices.
So yeah, in essence, Chapter 5 of Köttrobotar lays out a pretty compelling case for how these deliberate mechanisms, planned obsolescence, perceived obsolescence, the consumable model, all work together to keep this cycle of consumption spinning.
The key takeaway from the chapter is really that our consumption patterns aren't just about what we individually desire at any given moment.
Right. There are these powerful economic forces, historical legacies, deliberate corporate strategies.
All actively encouraging us to consume more, consume faster, and just throw things away without much thought.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Looking at our own lives, our own habits. Do we recognize those generational influences Isaacson talks about? Do we see how maybe our parents or grandparents thought differently about possessions?
And can we spot the signs of planned obsolescence in the things we buy? That gadget that mysteriously slows down just as the new version launches?
Ugh, yes. Or the appliance that conks out conveniently just after the warranty expires. It happens all the time.
So this prompts a crucial question, really, for you listening. To what extent are your desires for new things truly your own?
Yeah.
And how much are they shaped by this historical context, the economic system we live in, and, well, the deliberate strategies manufacturers use?
It's a really provocative thought, isn't it? Considering all these built-in pressures, this long history, how much of that itch for the latest phone, the newest fashion, the next gadget, is genuinely us, and how much is kind of by design?
It certainly gives you something to mull over. How does this constant cycle impact our own sense of well-being and, of course, the planet?
Absolutely. Reflecting on these underlying forces, maybe that's the first step towards engaging with it all a bit more consciously.
Becoming less of a meat robot, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe so. And that's really what this deep dive is all about, sparking that curiosity, getting you thinking, maybe encouraging you to explore these ideas further.
Perhaps even by checking out Isaacson's book itself.
Exactly. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today.